Robin Bello Spirito here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Robin. So thank you for coming.
Hi,
So you have 4 poems to read tonight, so please take it away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting this. And I'm very happy to be reading my poems. I have 4 poems, 2 are short and 2 are a little bit longer. So I guess I'll read the 2 short ones first. The first poem is called Boardwalk to the Sea. Boardwalk to the sea. Against all the wishes of the whispering trees, I walk the board unto the sea. Waves clapping at my arrival, wind playing roughly with my hair, bits and wisps of sand and swirls high into the air in this wild place where the Great Mother reminds us what it was like to be born. Then the second poem is called March Wind. Sing, sweet bitter wind, coursing through the currents of the blackened sky, over town, over streets and cars and trees, like the blood of air in streams over land with no bounds. You soar and blow your breath of whirling, shuddered harp song that has no strings, no tether, no kite, but you howl like a banshee, like a train, like the night. Strong, unseen, presence known, all over, rampantly blow through each crevice of earth's places, touching all without embrace, clear and teething on what matters, hissing sovereign, ruler of space. Go your way, we cannot stop you. Bite the feather, chew the curdled cloud. Go your way in the darkness, we can hear you. As you're passing, you are loud. Then I have a poem called Evermore. I think I might be able to do this without my glasses. At the dawn of dusk of the brand new day, she awoke to the sound of thunder, sightly hearing with a wistful breath, teasing cobwebs from their shelves, inside spaces filled with shadow, filled her head. Calmly, calmly draw within, echoes softly dance around, when the sprightly teems with rainbows dark, all the climb, all the time, filled yet stark. Pretty wishes drowned in dewdrops, from dark eyes they fall like rockets, pounding heart of life, but frightened of its beating, takes a beating for its fright. Calmly, calmly look around, life astrewn across the floor. Through the window shines a light. Follow, lady, to its source. Risk the danger of the beating, for heart flutters turn to wings, as sure a foot becomes a two-step, while unfurledly twirling out the door. Dust and cobwebs swept from shadows, light alights upon the beams of the house with walls softly fallen, of the soul that laughs and gleams. Eyes a-widened to the wonder, grasp beneath the foot, left, then right. Slow excitement hastens for the beauty of the pine, the breath of air, for cerulean skies of light. All the world is but a garden, tremble, trample, but no more, as the whistle glow of fireflies and crows and scores of geese drown out thoughts of nevermore. Ever, ever for the wonder, for the wandering is delight. All the world is but a garden, sweet of nectar, reds and vines, sweets glorious, melodies entwine, in fragrance, feast and flower, swaft begotten, all is thine. Lady, lady, girl of wonder, wanders near and far, sparkled,
I was the rollerblade.
filled
I
belonging,
got rollerblades.
every blade of grass a
Oh,
greeting,
how's that?
every mountain, shore, and field, in abundance, unabashed its splendor, feeling, seeing all.
Did you see the
Joy.
video?
She sings to all that greets her, tender remembrance, here, there, and there. Evermore will she wander, evermore delicious be, for the dancing, meandering rainbow, for all of eternity. And my last poem is called Night Dreamer, Night Dancer, sorry, Night Dancer. Thank you. Twilight turns to gloaming, turns to dark. There are sparks of life up above. I see love. Purple hues and blues and the golden tones and reds, reflecting glimmers of all colors, each one worthy of its being, surround me near and far, circle my head as I perch upon a cloud. Oh, so sweet and so silent, but so loud and so vast. We all are in a dance. The dance is the trance that moves my body round. Intergalactic nightlife at the Celestial Club. We're having a ball. Together we groove like some cosmic soup, being one with each other, with the all. I cannot slip, I cannot fall, all floaty and all free. I just slide down the Milky Way. From my heart bubbles laughter of a million giggling galaxies. Let's all dance, take my hand. Come, let's play. Come trip the light fantastic, even if you are light years away. In a spiral dance through solar systems, sliding past Neptune, Jupiter, and Mars, outer sways become a waltz, space a darkened ballroom, and Orion's belt a stairway through the stars. All the cosmos is pulsing to the rhythm of a universal beat, and the drummers, if they're watching, are also tapping their feet. Silly silence, silly, silly, oh, so beautiful at its core. Left and right go on forever. Who knows what is its source? Infinite night teases the eye to endless sight. This luscious, luminous darkness is our friend, providing a dance floor with no floorboards. Star to star, there is no end. Streams of space dust flow past, glistening. Space, a far out landscape with no bounds. Peaceful latitudes, tranquil platitudes.
Sorry, Robin, you got muted somehow.
Okay. I don't know where I left off. I just had a couple of paragraphs left.
Dancing, I think it was dancing, the word dancing.
Infinite night teases the eye to endless
Yeah.
night. You guys hear it? Streams of space dust flow past glistening. Space, a far out landscape with no bounds. Peaceful latitudes, tranquil platitudes. Know the unknowing. Feel its circular, real. Beloved dance at its finest. Please excuse my Pleiades as I wear the rose nebula in my hair. Swing around, there is no ground. Feel the heart light sparkle like stars. Don't look down. That's me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Those were really beautiful, Robin. So what inspired you to write them? I mean, I noticed that there's a lot of nature, a lot of odes to nature in them. So what are some of like your biggest inspirations?
I think actually art, because I'm mainly an artist, an oil painter. That's how I first found out about Westbury Arts. And colors inspire me. So I guess I use a lot of visual in my poetry. And I love nature. I practice a form of spirituality that's based on honoring nature and having reverence for the seasons and nature. So that all kind of plays in.
Are those your paintings behind you?
Yes, they're those two of them. Thank you.
They're beautiful, really beautiful. So does anybody have any questions or comments for Robin? No? Any questions or comments, just put them in the chat. And if not, we're going to move on to the next poet. But
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful work, Robin. Thank you so much for being here.
And Deirdre,
Thank you so much.
so Deirdre, who was having internet trouble, is back now. So if we want Deirdre to go next.
Yes, we're going to move on to Deirdre now. So
All right.
spotlight her.
I can start.
Yeah, Deirdre, to have to spotlight you. 1 second.
Autumn begins on a school playground in Nairobi, Kenya. It began under the shade of a single tire swing tree, crowded with some barefooted school children clad in purple and white uniforms. The grass long worn down to dust from the endless shoeless visitors, both young and old. The tall, lush grass in the near distance braided into perfect traps. A little girl chasing another girl in circles, an endless game of tag. The little boys taking turns swinging, an adult nearby to keep order. High in the tallest tree, a mixture of boys and girls sat reading with some classmates. The day was full of warmth, laughter, and tranquility. One little girl trips and falls from a braided trap, snapping it apart. She laughs and rebraids the grass into a much stronger enclosure. A grasshopper the size of an adult's finger jumps into her hand. She plucks a braid of glass, feeding it in peaceful silence. The air is filled with joyful screeches of smiling children. The sun is high up in the sky, accompanied by fluffy white clouds with the brightest blue sky. It never snows or becomes overly cold. The perks of living in a country split by the equator. A handheld bell rings from the main building, calling the children to start coming back to class. A mixture of grumbles from the swing line and excitement from the tree climbers as they head back down. Playtime is over, time to go back and learn.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Do you have one other one that you wanted to read? The World We Wanted? Okay. Please go ahead.
The world we wanted. This is the world we wanted. From the moment our ancestors bellowed, "Enough is enough." From the moment our children learned how to read and write. From the moment our women gained the right to vote, we knew it was so. This is the world we wanted. A world where our voices can finally be heard. A world where our feelings are put into consideration. A world where our people can ultimately be equal. We knew it was so. But this is not the world we needed. From the moment the ice caps began to melt, from the moment the word extinct and vulnerable became the new species, from the moment we began killing and torturing the planet, we knew it, but we ignored to say so. This is not the world we needed. A world where no is the equivalence to yes. A world where the size of our wallet defines your status. A world where the color of your skin determines your job and salary. A world where a horrific truth is ignored by a favorable lie. We have movies that show the dooming truth. We have movements that publicize the barefaced cause. We have evidence that supports the unmistakable claim. We have so much to go for, but in the end, none of these matters. This, unfortunately, is the world we wanted. Okay.
So those are beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing them. So in both of these, I saw I saw two things. I saw firstly a lot of odes to nature, a lot of odes to take care of the planet and how we interact with the planet, and also a lot about society and how we also interact with ourselves and each other and view ourselves and each other. So for these poems, the first one in particular, was that inspired by your real life experiences? Because you really felt like you were there. It was so vivid.
Yes, that was inspired from when I was still in school in Kenya.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love that one. You feel like you're there. And obviously the second one, The World We Wanted, I think that's so important, especially now with everything that's going on, especially with, the environment and the fact that more is not being done to help the earth. I think this is something that we need to bring more attention to and something that the arts can really help with. So I really appreciate you sharing those. Did anybody have any questions or comments for Deirdre? You know, if nobody has any questions or comments, we're going to move on to the next poet. So next up then is Rosabelle Penato, and I hope I'm saying that right. So is Rosabelle here? Rosabelle?
Yes.
Great. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name
Don't
wrong.
worry, because my first language is Spanish, and I maybe in my poem I have many mistakes. My name is Rosalba Henao.
Okay, thank you.
My verse is timeless. I am a woman who walks through time. My feet keeps the turn and the wisdom of the paths. My hair preserves the smell of the grass and the color of prairies. Healed with traces of magic in my hands, of a time without permission to attend birds and seals woods. In the dawn, a scar still born, mark of the bonfire of dead centuries. Sometimes my words intersect with the voice of my ancestors, repeating who I am or what I ought to be. Under the rain of every single day, I go read my ordinance without the footprints of women of all times, having or this shattered body the duty of seduction. Put the black dress and you'll step on. Seduce me, lose some pounds, cinch your waist. Put on high heels. Be discreet when you laugh. Smooth out your wrinkles. When you come to work, Carmina, wear loose clothing. Hide your breast, your hips. Sometimes, when I walk the city empty of gazes, and the night smell like tiredness, mine are the drop of water that I going down my back. A deep silence returns to me the question, who in this afternoon look at you when I look at you? Who will look in me tonight when the world ceased? My second poem is At My Age. When I reached half a century of life, I meditated. At my age, you pray less and meditate more. You are more grateful because you learn the value of what you have acquired. You take the necessary time to smell, feel, see, and to open yourself to beauty. At my age, I appreciate the uniqueness of the family. To be born in a constellation of women, criticized for breathing laughter and words at the sake of men. We have made together homelands, gazes, and dreams with a genuine intention to complement us without place for malice. I was born among Policarpas who fought like Bolivar the conquest of freedom. I was born in Camilo's land, teachers to hosts who have learned with patience, put emphasis on our similarities, rather our differences. At the half century of life, I fathomed that the most beautiful artwork of the universe is the earth, with its colors, days and night, my one mature, and fulfill the miracle of becoming a mother. What will be the seed without the suns and moons? At my age, I take the time to remember the sleeplessness of childhood, the one that I lost for adapting. Today, I decide to bring them back and make them come true. At half a century of life, without my cheeks getting blush, I danced the cha-cha-cha. I thought it was a cumbia, and out of a dance, as though it were a portal, just for the pleasure of moving and feeling me alive. Today, despite the fears, I know they will never disappear. I don't fear toward which legacy of experience, nor the word slut that mean pleasure in a time where feeling was seen. And the last poem is called There Are Cities. As 500 years ago, we continue behind the illusion of gold and mirrors. There are cities that aspire to a plate of food and bless the water drops that come from the sky. Others dream of having a teacher, a doctor, an artist. There are cities that touch the clouds with their buildings of mirrors and have sold the planets per square meter and have enough money as if to buy a star. To the south, there are cities working tirelessly so that the dead, hidden in silence, will have a name and the world will have again its place. In the very fit cities, the inhabitants have departed to the cities that they never sleep and work without seeing the sun. A fistful of those who remain with their arrows under the pillows, take care of what is left. Every morning, they intonate songs so that they don't arrive the cost, the ones to break the souls, to tee off even the last chime from the mountains. This now come from the cities of the buildings that reach the sky and name themselves gods and need everyone's money and everyone's hands to dig the moon. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Well, thank you. They were absolutely beautiful. How much, I mean, I get the feeling that you get a lot of your inspiration from history and from your experiences as a woman. So what are those, some of the things that inspire you? What would you say are your biggest inspirations?
It's to live in two borders, no? I belong to Colombia, which is a country with big violence, and to live here and to see how the people in both borders all the time aspire for more money, and the life is something very strange, and the body is strange, and the death is common. This is, I think, my big reflection. And also the life of the woman in every country, which is very similar. It doesn't matter that we have lawyers or laws, but I think that it's the same for everyone, every woman in the world, to have the same. It's something that now we have more rights, but I think that in down we have more, or it's the same. Sorry.
No, I know what you're saying.
I don't know how to explain very well. So.
It's a shared experience that people have more in common than they have. They're more alike, unalike, in other words, and there's certain experiences or shared experiences. And I think when a lot of people read these poems, they had the same reaction that I did, whereas you really found it very touching and you understood it. You know, it really, I loved it. I thought it was beautiful when I read it. I'm so happy that you shared them. And does anybody have any comments about these poems or any questions? And if not, we're going to move on to the next poet, who is SONIA ARORA, who just showed up. They tapped into a collective consciousness. Yes, that's exactly what they did. Beautiful way to say it, Bianca. All right, so thank you very much, Roosevelt. And I am going to move on now to SONIA ARORA. So is Sonia here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Sonia. So thank you for coming. And you have two really beautiful poems to read to us today. So when you have a chance, take them away and just make sure you say the titles beforehand so we know which one we'll listen to.
Sure. Thanks, Megan, for organizing this event. And thank you, everybody, for being here and just being good listeners. All right. So the first poem is called On Negative Capability, inspired by actually something that John Keats wrote about in his letters. Camouflaged in coffee-colored parka, I wait for Mama on a frigid, sunny day, staring at funnels of dust swirling. Cells multiply inside me. I peek out, overflowing jacket, a bulwark against cold edges of winter light. Outside the window, ash meanders. Incinerator burns peels of yesterday's meal. Bottles once solid and shapely, now disassembled, bits floating here, there, everywhere. No path to guide their journey from the 7th floor apartment. Not like geometric pathways of dust, not like the rhapsodic growth of girl. Stillness is my best friend. That is when I see best. Mama recites prayers, her dupatta wrapped singing a prayer, mellifluous notes creating order. If only I could be like Mama, lithe and elegant, not haphazard angles and juts, a cubist painting come to life. Mama peers at time, jingles keys onto her fingers, readies herself with lipstick, swings handbag upon her shoulder, scolds me for just sitting, rambles about the list of things to do, like buying me a bra before the day is done. So that's the first poem. And do you want me to go ahead and read the second one, Megan?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is actually, the funny thing is, this is another poem with the mother, the mother and the daughter. All right, it's called Elmhurst, Queens, 1975. Mom and Auntie fold clothes of strangers for $2 an hour. Disco plays on a transistor radio outside the bubblegum store next door. A man smoking a cigar walks past the laundromat. He grabs my ponytail. My follicles cry. He keeps pulling as if he'll take me to the edge, drop me into the void of his face. My neck strains past my ear. His wrinkled hands, like smoking coal. A big black hat hiding his face, no nose or mouth. Why would he take me? Where is my mother? It is daylight, and there are so many people on the sidewalk. As he reaches the edge of a tar-stained sidewalk, he lets go. Just like that. No reason for taking me, no reason for letting go. As I enter the laundromat, a girl sits on the sidewalk and takes a piece of freshly thrown bazooka bubblegum off the concrete into her mouth. I tell Mom and Auntie as they fold just bleached cotton undershirts, not even looking at me. They laugh and say, "What man? You're fine. You're fine." After all, I am still here. They keep folding underwear. On the radio, the music stops playing in the middle of a Jackson 5 song. A man says the war is over, and our men are leaving a place called Saigon. When they come back, who will believe them?
These are absolutely beautiful, Sonia. And I had to ask the second one, The first time I read that, Elmhurst Queen, 1975, that just jumped out at me because these are basically poetically told stories. They're fantastic examples of free verse. And I had to ask, did this really happen? Because that sounds like a very scary experience.
Yes, it did. It did happen. I was just I was just 5 years old. My mom was working, and I was just people watching on the sidewalk, and this man that was described in the poem just grabbed me by my hair for no reason. And the funny thing is, the next day he told my aunt, he said, "Oh, she didn't say hello to me. She wasn't friendly. So I decided to grab her."
Wow.
It was pretty scary. It was really, really scary. And the fact that then nobody believed me because it looked like I seemed fine, they thought I was just making up stories. So I felt like that experience was similar to men who come back from the war. People don't really understand what happens to them.
It's a great correlation, but that's a scary experience. Thank goodness nothing more serious happened. But you were only 5 and you still remember that, and it just shows how those like really traumatic things kind of stick with you. But I mean, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm happy that you got such a beautiful poem out of it, and I really appreciated listening to both of them. I'm really happy that you were open to sharing them with all of us. So does anybody have any questions or comments from Sonia? No? Okay, so if not, we are going to move on. So thank you so much, Sonia. So now we are moving on. I actually made a mistake earlier. I'm doing this in alphabetical order, and because the paper in front of me, there's no space between 2 poets when there should have been for some reason. I accidentally completely skipped over Cuentos de Tragedias, and I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, you can come on and correct me. But you have 2 poems to share with us. So if you're here, I'd like to spotlight.
It's me, Meg. It's Adriana. Sorry, I got you confused with the email name.
I'm so sorry about that. I didn't mean to. I was looking at
Okay.
the
No, don't worry.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
So you have 2 beautiful poems here to read us. So when you have a chance, please take them away, and also just read the title first.
Thank you. I'll start with a quote by Francois Mauriac, and he says, "Death does not steal our loved ones. On the opposite, it saves them and immortalizes them in our memories." And this is titled, "I'll Find You in the Heavens." I'll find you in the heavens, on the horizon, inspiring the magnitude of the universe, swimming free among gilt-head beams and hadcots, growing in the wind as a Caribbean palm tree, taking care of us in the bustle of the land. I lost you, although I still feel the soft touch of your memory. I hear your now eternal heartbeat, a smile that softens my pain. Forgive my selfishness in missing you, looking for your advice among the silence, losing myself in the scream of the night. You, a miraculous violet in the desert. Forgive my absence in your departure, the blessing and the hug that I couldn't give you, the numerous I love yous that luckily I shared with you, but today do not seem enough. Now we find you in the prairie, between monarchs and lilies, Apollos, violets, cayennes, and emeralds. Canticles and parables dispelling doubt, filling your defeated body with strength, awaiting your farewell. The light in your eyes seemed to fade as you strolled radiant, singing to life. Now you sprout from my pores like sweet verses. Your light shines through my children's smile. There you are on the horizon, showing us that life transcends existence, that love lives on no matter what. That was the first one. Remember that a person's name is not that person, is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. And this was said by Dale Carnegie, This poem is called Me llamo Gloria. Me llamo Gloria. Call me by my name. Not la chacha, no la tipa aquella, not the one that looks like a neighbor, but has an accent. Stop assuming. I buy your products. My taxes pay for our children to attend the same school. My father is not a landscaper, although our front lawn is a full display of his pride, his tenderness, his humility. There are lilies, dahlias, orchids, irises, crocus, sunflowers, just like there are Marías, Adelaidas, Rosalías, Carmencitas y Auroras. Yo me llamo Gloria. I am from a place some don't know because ignorance limits geographical understanding. From a place of ancestral strength and forgiveness. Gloria, the glorious, enchanted, magical, magnificent, true beauty to withhold. My name is Gloria, the joy of looking and comprehending, as Albert Einstein say, is nature's most beautiful gift. Looking and comprehending, giving and accepting, listening and processing, not what it's interpreted as truth based on stereotypes and judgment, but what truly lies there. My story, your story, my sisters, my brothers, the grandmother that fought this never-ending battle, the uncle who lost his inheritance because he stood for justice, the children who innocently laugh at the jokes made about their classmates. My great-grandfather would say, mala hierba, hay que cortar por lo sano. I say, call them by their names. Cirrus, cirrostratus, cumulus, lenticular, stratus. There's no shaming when you have character and values. So, driving through again, now remember, my name is Gloria, the glorious, enchanted, magnificent, magical, true beauty to withhold. Thank you.
Thank you. These are absolutely beautiful and so powerful. And I love the way that you blend, that you mix Spanish in with these poems so seamlessly, because it's a beautiful language. It's actually, I do not speak it, unfortunately, but it's my favorite language. I love it.
Thank you.
I was wondering, you had mentioned when you submitted these poems that Mi llamo Gloria was actually based over something that on something that happened to a friend of yours. So can you go into a little bit about what inspired this poem?
I think she'll give me permission. She is actually here tonight.
Wonderful.
And she is my sister from another mother and another father. There she is with Bianca. She lives in North Carolina, and she was going through a drive-through buying something, and the person wrote her name as Maria. I think, correct me, Gloria, if I'm saying the story correctly. And she said, wait, what name did you write? I told you my name is Gloria. And the person was like, yeah, okay, Maria, and just proceeded to write whichever name she felt that, that she deserved, because, she wasn't quite, I guess, giving her name or her presence the importance that it deserved. And when Gloria told me the story, I just felt that I had to write something, because he felt so mine. Like, although it happened to her, he felt like it's one of those things that sometimes we don't give names the importance that they deserve. Names are tied to your identity, to your, not only your personal identity, but your cultural heritage, your ancestry. There is so much power with our names, with our last names, and we have to just value all of those things. So I really wanted to, honor Gloria, and emphasize, you know, the fact that our names are so important, and that everybody deserves to be treated with respect, you know, regardless of their appearances.
Absolutely. That's why when I was writing back to people that were part of this event, I was like, can you just write in exactly how to pronounce your names? Because I want to get everybody's name right. Some people didn't respond though. So because like I know I'm butchering some of the pronunciations. And I feel so bad about that because I know like you want to have your name pronounced right and spelled right and said right. You know, it makes a big difference. And it sounds like with this experience, you just dealt with somebody who was just a very disgruntled employee, probably not a very nice person, having a bad day, and like then just made your day worse too. But at the same point, your friend's day in this case, but at the same point, here was a very bad experience that happened. And just like Sonia's poem, you were able to turn that around and turn it into art and turn it into something beautiful. So you took something that was bad and turned it into something that was really creative and beautiful and powerful. So I really am so happy to have been able to include this poem because I loved it from the second I read it. I thought it was
Oh my gosh. And she wrote on the chat that it happened today again. And I just, you know, it's just so hurtful how these things continue to happen, how people feel that they have, you know, some individuals feel that they have the right to just, you know, make assumptions and disrespect you and try to, you know, run over all others in that way. And so
it's awful when things like that happen. And the people that are doing it a lot of the times, they're usually very unhappy themselves. And it's like, okay, so now I'm unhappy, so I'm going to make you unhappy. It's this vicious cycle. And hopefully we can start to break that and start to increase respect. And as you said, decrease in ignorance. Because in the poem, it actually says that.
what a better way than poetry, right?
Exactly.
Art in
The
general.
arts are a great way to do that. So thank you so much. Does anybody
Thank
have any questions or comments about this poem before we move on to the next poet? No? Okay, if not, we are going to move on to our next poet. So thank you so much, Adriana. So the next poet is Damien Hay. So I saw Damien Hay before. Are you still here, Damien?
Yes, I am.
Great. Hello, Damien.
Hi.
So you have five poems to
Yes.
share with us today. So please dive in, and just all I ask, you can go one right after the other, just state the titles beforehand.
All right. You can cut me off at some point if you want, obviously, but
Not at all, not at all.
all right.
Anyway.
So thank you for including me in this. The poems are beautiful and wonderful that I've heard so far. And the first one that I'm doing is called The Language of Yearning. Do you recall that shape our shadows made long ago up against our first bedroom wall? Somewhere from a rooftop in Brooklyn, vinyl horns crackled the air with King Oliver. And later, somebody out of his mind yelled obscenities at the faltering, frail street lamp that buzzed below our walk-up window. Back then, when our days were lustful, green, or anxious, or we peered out at the Sunday drizzle, our mingled thoughts drawn forth by the fertile air, we huddled in a native room we built with dream and formed schemes to usurp distant afternoons. Surely the time came. We must have left our room, whether by our own exile or the need for space. Before we filled each other with heavy weather, remember how we'd ease into the ebbing tide out there on some shore along the Rockaways. And then in Breezy, I was telling that joke and you kissed me just to get me to shut up. Or on that last beach when 20 years ago, I'd have grinned, grabbed you and tossed you in. I've asked, are we both past our becoming age? The other day when we watched the biopic of the famous singer that ended 30 years before he died, I said, it's not good to outlive your own biography. You replied that it was better than the alternative. And I often wonder, whenever I reach across you, have our tongues outlived the language of yearning? That's the first one. The second one is called Cave Creature. My eyes are becoming the eyes of a cave creature peering out at the primeval swamp on the lookout for new unseen predators, avoiding anything invisible that could become visible. which today is just about everything. I share the hunger of small beasts hidden in holes among the rocks. I listen to the rain, fearing flood, while growing ravenous for fish. When my hunger overcomes my fear, I'll dart across the in-between and mix my terror with a bit of flesh. But these are uneven times. I keep indoors, too fond of my chair, not quite safe from violence, confusion, and rage. Amid plague, the delusional march to ransack a sacred temple, following the orders of a deposed tyrant. I sense no end of demagogue or plague. I know a world of many thin veneers, easily stripped, sensitive to change. My skin's not so different from a frog's. And law is human viscera, prone to virus. Once in a storm, a neighbor told me, civilization lasts about as long as the lights stay on. All right. A third, this was when I had gone to Laos a few years ago. It's called Jasmine. After I had made devout and early plans late in the Laotian night, I went to sleep, while in the street below, the haggling calls of tuk-tuk drivers made my dreams grow coarse. At dawn, past night's din of growling motorbikes, bells, drums, and screaming roosters, I rode a rented bicycle through the side streets of Luang Prabang, the last blue smoke of the night market hanging stale in the air, and on past temples and countless barking dogs. Still, I returned, not yet awake enough to help the forming line of monks with morning alms. A vine of flowers twining through the stairs encroached my door and helped me to my bed. But as I caught my sleep, a fragrance crept into my room and prodded me with sweet musk and regret. And here's a somewhat shorter one next. It's called Rutabaga. She was not a proud woman, but she did take satisfaction in being able to look in the refrigerator and put something together from what scraps she found. Nor was he a vocal man. But he didn't have to be. Farm work taught him prudence. He pruned his calloused hands with a paring knife, knowing she loved to watch him do it. She put dinner on the table and sat across from him. Then Grace, remembering their absent daughter. During the silent meal, he thought, this woman can take a rutabaga and turn it into a symphony. And here's a final one. It's called And Now As I Remember You. Now, when you visit, the air smells cobalt blue, dappled in gold with flecks of green about the edges of the room. You speak to me and I hear Saugerties with its taste of burnt biscuits and a hint of red. You feel like Little League summers, bruised with blackberries, pinched by the wooded path and back. Your tongue has the classical taste of a string quartet with long black gowns and pearls. And now, as I remember you, everything returns me to long ago thoughts of sauteed garlic and butter, wafting through that street fair in Brooklyn where we met. Thank you.
Thank you so much. These are absolutely beautiful. And I love the way that you read them. I mean, I can tell that you've read a lot of poetry out loud in your life because you just have such a wonderful voice. Like you could do professional narrations for these. So of all of these, when I listen to them, they seem to be snapshots of your life. So are all your poems directly inspired by things that specifically happened to you, or what would you say are your biggest inspirations?
No. Let's see, I went to Laos. I didn't have that exact same experience, but you know, like you do, you take things that are around you and you kind of stew on them for a bit. I will say that for the last one, and now as I remember you, one of the things that I miss most about there being, you know, the social distancing and not being able to go into Brooklyn and not being able to see, you know, street fairs, right, in the summer. You know, I miss the smell of street food. I miss the smell of sausages and peppers, sausage and pepper sandwiches and garlic, right? Garlic butter. A lot of my poems are synesthetic. You know, the wiring. Yes, the feast too, right? Someone said. Yeah, the wires cross a little bit. I mean, I have a slight case of synesthesia where you kind of, which helps in writing, right? Which kind of blends different senses together. And the things that I can imagine, and I've lived in New York City, and I've been in similar situations, but they're not really directly from life, but they are a view of the world, and I try to make it as visceral and sensuous as I can.
They definitely come across that way, because I know that they transported me directly there when I read them. And I also miss the street fairs. I love going to the street fairs, and I do.
Right.
Hopefully they come back soon. Hopefully by 2022 at latest, we'll all be back to them.
I hope so.
So does anybody have any questions or comments for Damien before we moved on to the next poet? No? You're getting a lot of good feedback in the comment section though.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm grateful.
So thank you so much, Damien, for sharing that. So next we have Jonathan Hopkins. So is Jonathan Hopkins here?
Hey, my man is about to speak.
Oh, okay. So Jonathan Hopkins, we have to get you spotlighted. 1 second. So I see you, Jonathan. Wait 1 second. Let me see if I can spotlight. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
So
I was just gonna say, Jonathan has one poem to read for us, but it is fantastic. So take it away, Jonathan.
Thank you. My piece is called We Scribble Light. We are here to make sense out of what don't make dollars. Our unique lens shakes scholars and seeks God like real priests with fake collars. We're soaked in hope and doubt till we holler divine whispers in hell's open mouth. We throw quotes about. We write about what you gripe about. Despite heavenly insight, we grope about the outskirts of paradise. The paradox is we are paralyzed, but our pair of eyes are as sharp as paring knives and fine lines for pairing lives, repairing lives, and sharing whys to those whose prayer in life is at their chest to see through. We see you. We're preaching oracles to leaking oracles. We're art spoken to hearts broken. We impart tokens to enlighten dark folks and brighten smart folks. We spark blokes with the fire shut up in our bones. We shut up when we're alone, but our lead speaks volumes. We write to atone. We hear the world through our lead phones. We're lone lyrics and notes thrown from God's throne to let us know we're his own, so we're right to atone. We don't write to be known, it's our flight that we've flown. When we write, we fight to the bone to give you light we've been shown, and when light has been shown, we'll write and break a point to make a point. We anoint our lead and toil through wars and peace together, chords that ward off peace. We're wards of peace whose peace can make war from peace without you having to pour through war and peace. Tore heaven and hell and tore peace, so we can store peace. So when we pour from our core, we are informants of imported pieces. We force life's assorted feces and distorted pieces through our pen, and for sport, we spurt a beautifully discordant thesis. Our trick is we treat this like we need this. We eat this. Whether you need or delete this, we're free when we read this. We're hemophiliac leeches. We feed when we bleed this. Our creed is we write this. Insight drips from our right wrist. We light wicks when we write scripts and fight bics like we like this. We write despite the fact that we might miss, but we write gifts that are flight risks. Our pen tips are where light drips. We speak for the tight-lipped. We are passion's sidekicks. We pass inside tips when life's passive sides kicks. We look forward to love like compassion psychics. To us, God rations seismic portions of his grace by allowing our eye to trace the divine contortion of his face. We're the rhyming consortium of his faith. We're born to hate and love this fate. We create lines that recreate times, that rewind our minds through time and space. We chase waterfalls. Share our gifts, and on your face, water falls down your cheeks to rain, water crawls, tears hydroplane to hide your pain. And whether you're special or try to hide your plane, we write for you. We pen ambient light to give ambient nights for you. We fight for you to quiet your morbid screams, pen life for you that gives birth to aborted dreams. We stream thoughts through our verse, our pen slakes our thirst until those men make our hearse. We won't shake this curse. What's worse is we make words work because we know words worth much more than a penny for our thought. It's like we bought a nickel bag of thoughts in peace. We piece rhyme theses into dime pieces. We lease time creatures to increase our mind creases. And until our mind ceases, we'll bind lines to our mind's eyes because our lines teach when our lives preach, and we form speech that hurts like we're born breech. But don't mourn, each of us is a menstrual minstrel. We bleed on our pad from secret places to all those hearing it. We flow ink till we cramp, vomit words because we're sick, and spill our guts through our prose, period.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I love this poem. The first time I read this, it just knocked me over, and I could just imagine it being read out loud. And the way you read it is absolutely fabulous. This is like the quintessential spoken word poetry. And this reminded me of a mix between poetry and gospel, and you basically preach the poem, and I just love it. I think it is brilliant. So let me just ask you, what gave you the inspiration behind this, and how long did this take to write? Because it's a work of art.
Thank you very much. The piece itself, one of my best friends, and he's also a poet, wrote a piece about what it is that poets do. And within the piece, there was a line called "We Scribble Light." So I thought that was a really cool line to use for myself. So I wanted to write sort of my own version of that, of what it is that poets do. So I took his very first line, "We are here to make sense out of what don't make dollars." I used that and then just went off on my own stuff. And because I have the foresight to actually date my pieces, I started on September 23rd, 2011, and I finished it on June the 5th, 2012. So it took me a little while to write that. I write a lot of pieces simultaneously, so it's probably writing a bunch of stuff at the same time, but that's when I was finished it.
It is absolutely gorgeous. I hope you're able to get this published somewhere. It is just beautiful. It was so wonderful to have you be able to present this here. And it's funny because you were the last poet to reach out to me, and it was like right to the deadline. And I said to you, okay, just email me the poem really fast so we can move it in. And then when you sent it to me, I had to review them first. And when you sent it to me, I was like, wow, we have to have this. So I'm so glad you found the call, because this was a treat. And I think from the comments you're getting in the chat, I think you can see a lot of people are fans of this. So does anybody have any questions or comments for Jonathan before we move on?
Yes. I need to read this. I need to look at this, and your phrases just, hemophiliac leeches. I mean, come on. So where can we read it?
I'll put my email address in the comments, and so you can email me and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
My pleasure.
This reminds me of Coltrane. It's just the flow. It sounds like music. It sounds, and it's brilliant wordplay, and it's very well crafted and musical.
I want to read it just to see how it looks.
I'll put my email in the comments, and just email me and I'll send it out to you. It's not a problem. Not a problem.
It's beautiful and lyrical. It really is. That's exactly what I got from it. You hear the beat, even reading it. You hear the beat, but to hear it out loud, especially from the poet's own mouth, it makes a big difference. Like,
and you didn't trip up either on any of that.
Oh.
That's a rather difficult poem to read there.
Yeah.
That's cool. I figure if I can't read my own poem, then I got a problem.
Beautiful sounding. I applaud you. Great job.
Jonathan is a musician.
Ah.
Tell him what instrument you play, Jonathan.
I play guitar, Shay. I play the guitar. Yeah, I've been playing since I was 16.
Well, it sounds like you play saxophone or a guitar very well.
Good job, John. I don't think I heard that one. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to ask if you have a book already. I was already saying we must buy this book. My daughter loves poetry, and I said this is one I will add to her collection. So
I actually do. Interestingly enough, I actually do have a book. I don't know if it's still in print. I'm actually working on the second one, but the first book is called Golden Dreams on Copper Wings: Life's Flight Through Poetry. You can find it on Amazon if it's still in print. Golden Dreams on Copper Wings. I can see if I can find the link and put that in there.
And I'll shoot you an email later.
Okay.
Why don't you put the name in the chat?
Yeah.
I'll put the name in the chat too.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that everybody loved this poem as much as I did, because I thought it was fantastic. And I'm so glad you found this event. I'm so glad you were included. And I will definitely look up your book too, because this is just phenomenal. You're very talented. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So does anybody have any other comments or questions? Because if not, we're going to move on to our next poet. And her name is Christina Rao. I hope I'm saying that correctly. So
yep, you got it. It rhymes with wow. So
yeah.
You got it.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, you told me that. I just want to make sure I got it right. Yeah. You have 5 beautiful poems to read to us. So
sure.
As I'm asking, just state the title before you read the poems, and please begin.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you everybody else for listening in advance. So the first one is called Fog. When the fog burns off in the dark, sight still isn't clear. You need the light to see, you need the clarity, but also you need the heat and the sun to burn. And also you need the fog, a break to take out of the shimmer into the unsafe place, shivering in a blind cold, returning from sight and sound to feel, to touch. So when the fog burns off, you keep relearning to love yourself. And this next one is called Hiking the Island. The forest becomes the beach. The roots become the shore. High bluffs, wind cast over, rolls of clover cover over the crane. At rest, in flight, at rest, in flight, at rest again in reeds. Spark of lightning crossways cut through daylight. The woods become the sand. The roots become the sound, cairn cornered, built before building, now near pebbles, skipped and sunk, skipped and sunk, skipped across waters where blue meets blue. The next one actually doesn't have a title, so we'll be like Shakespeare or Emily Dickinson, and we'll just call it by the first line. It's called Not Enough Room for Darkness. Not enough room for darkness with all this light coming in. Even in a transitory state, not wake, not sleep, knowing the one man who loved me disappeared by the sea, the moment glistens. Weightless bliss inside meets rays from without. This is the answer to what happens when an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. No destruction, no friction, no ruin. It's all pressure, upholding life, creating love, making heaven breathable on earth. Brightness rockets up at the seam, a geyser glowing white mist, reflect, emanate, radiate, up, out, around, and always through. There is no end point. There's only forward, so go. I'm a lazy poet, so I usually don't write form poetry, but I actually wrote a form poem and it took me about like 3 years. So here we go. When it comes down to it, says Stina. You can only add so much until tightly sewn stitches burst. Leave it alone, leave it alone. The best advice not taken. Only an expert in sorrow would know the truth, which isn't enough. The truth is, there will never be enough time, enough nourishment, not much energy, even when burning mulch and wood. Even a soaring hot air balloon will burst open with such shrieking noise. Taken aback, we stumble and sleep alone. Honest human decency alone amounts to, well, not enough. The best of us have taken money and drugs, a bit too much to eat, a bladder about to burst from too much alcohol. Would you ever think to chop the wood and build the tiny fire alone in your own little world? A starburst overhead allows you to dream enough for 2 people at rest. Much of every single night is taken up not by dreaming, taken up by twisting sheets that would otherwise be ironed, linen, making much of an empty house when home alone. Domestic mundane chores are enough to make a mind on the verge burst with a fear of boredom, or burst with boredom in fear. When taken at dawn, the pills become enough to get you through the day. Would you rather not take them alone? Then don't drink too much. When you stand in a wood with much time alone, holding your breath until your lungs burst, you'll know when you've been taken by the notion of not being enough. And the last one has an epigraph: with deepest gratitude to Doyal at the Bhakti Center in New York City and Radhanath Swami, The Journeys Within. This is called An Ancient Wisdom. I am not the body. The mind is not the thought. The things our minds tell us may or may not be real. Be the rock, be the tree, be the rhinoceros in the dream. The mind tells us what we like and what we don't like. Intelligence tells us if it's a good idea. Speeding away, digging up the yard, jumping from ledge to stoop. That which is false is that which is temporary, though temporary seems real and forever, like diamonds. That which is real is beyond the body, which is not me or you or the mind. Faith is more than belief. Unicorns, pots of gold, tooth fairies, they fade. Instead, faith is trust, discernment, choice. The freedom to not love gives us the choice to do exactly that. An equanimity of surrendering control, a relief of letting go. No more photos, only flame. No more messages, only silence. The hunger of the heart is our biggest source of suffering. Compassion, feeling with others, being with their suffering, karuna beyond emotion, an active agent of spirit. We don't become spiritual. We are spirit. You have a God and that's not me. I have a God and that's not you. We are not the body. We are not the mind. You and I are something divine. Through purity of intention, through cultivating knowing the self comes from a pure love. Entitlement is love's antithesis. Doing what you're supposed to do doesn't mean extra trophies. When we do whatever we want to do, no matter what, we end up in places we don't want to be. Jail, the DMV, the confessional, on a bathroom floor. The secret to simple living is a simple heart. It's not a language of but, it's a language of and. And also, there is always light. The noun of love sometimes follows its verb. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. These are really gorgeous. I loved them. I noticed in a lot of them, there's a really steady theme of oceans and seas. So what inspires you? Are you most inspired by nature or things that have happened in your life? What are some of your major inspirations?
Yeah, it's really funny because usually I'm writing about space and science and none of this, but I did a lot of hiking over the summer, and I live on an island, and so, and so like the ocean and the forest and then just kind of being in nature and being out there and meditating and just kind of just taking in being outside and being able to just go out in the world and have that freedom, that all kind of came into play in the past year or so. So that's where most of these poems came from.
I also find, as a writer myself, I find that being out in nature is very good for the muse, definitely.
Yes.
So does anybody have any questions or comments for Christina?
You have a lot of key words from Zen and Buddhism. Equanimity, right? The mind, the mind is not the thought, and the body is, I forget exactly what how you put it, but all of this is, it seems to me, very Zen, very Buddhist, very everyone together but no self, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Am I close?
Oh yeah, you're right on that. Yeah, I teach mindful meditation. I do yoga,
wonderful.
and I'm a Buddhist. So yeah, so all of that does definitely make sense. Yes.
Gotcha.
Oh, Mani Padme. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. It was really wonderful to have these poems included. And if nobody else has any other comments, we're going to move on to our next poet. So we're going from Christina to Christine Sloan Stoddard. And I see you up here, Christine. 1 second, let me spotlight you. So hello.
Hi.
Christine is a really fantastic and talented actress, and she's a publisher and a writer. And I was so happy to have your work included here, Christine. So you have 5 really beautiful poems to read to us. So just as I'm asking everybody to state the title beforehand and then just take it away.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Westbury Arts. I wouldn't call these poems beautiful, but I do appreciate the sentiment. They're more so, I hope, humorous poems, and they are all from a stage piece that I'm working on right now. I'm sort of playing with page and stage and figuring out where I want things to go, but this whole collection is about corporate culture, especially during the pandemic. The first poem is Sorry for the delayed response to your email. Sorry for the delayed response to your email. I just didn't feel like replying. Sorry for the delayed response to your email. I won't be sending any more emails to anyone ever again. To reach me, please throw pebbles at my window or do not attempt to contact me at all. Sorry for the delayed response to your email. I don't know if you heard, but email actually doesn't exist anymore. This message was made available via time travel. Your concerns have already been addressed in another dimension. Goodbye. Sorry for the delayed response to your email. Unfortunately, email never existed. It was a figment of your imagination. You are a sorely disillusioned individual. Hopefully, I am not the first to tell you this. I'm sorry that you imagined email in the first place. What a horrible waste of imagination. You could have had cotton candy teddy bears or even world peace. Instead, you dreamt up email. You suit. The next one is Please Don't Read My Resume. Hire me for my humor and charm, because I do not meet your desired qualifications or minimum requirements. There are more gaps in my resume than potholes in a Baltimore road. I will never be a corporate ninja, champion, wonderkin, or expert of any kind. Not a cell in my body has any drive. My education comes from life experience, YouTube tutorials, and books I chose to read. I promise no passion. I promise no extra effort or even general competence. All I need is a paycheck. All you need is a star that doesn't burn too bright. Never fear, my dreams will never live here. Should I put that in an email for you to forward to HR? All right, number 3, meeting agenda. Today's agenda is that there is no agenda. There is no grade point average for imagination, no apprenticeship for fun. There is no work to do, only play. If you must have an agenda, may play be your agenda. Please, play. There is no final report required. Make such a report and you will be fired. Okay, let's drop the corporate speak. Play, goddammit. Got it? Do you remember how to play? The boss demands that we think outside the box, yet I've spent all my life hearing I must squeeze within these lines, these corners. Perhaps you need an evaluation. All right, here's the last one. Writing to follow up on my previous email. No, just kidding, second to last one. Writing to follow up on my previous email. Hello there, I'm just writing to follow up on my previous email. Did you see it? Or did you pluck out your eyeballs? Did you put them on a platter and serve them to your enemies? Am I one of them? Could I try one? An eyeball, not an enemy. I've always wanted to taste eyeballs. Do you have a knife and fork? I'll try one now and I'll read my previous email to you. Then you can respond in real time. It's what our ancestors would have wanted. They sacrificed for splatterpunk. All right, this is the last one. Per my last email. Per my last email, I traded in my laptop for a glow-in-the-dark trampoline. Per my last email, I am now a wolf in space. Per my last email, I brought the trampoline to space. Per my last email, I forgot that there's no gravity in space. Per my last email, I can't jump on my trampoline like I planned. Per my last email, I still howl at the moon every day. Per my last email, I am delighted to report that the moon is always full here. Per my last email, I do not type emails here, I howl them. Per my last email, I have discovered that you can never escape email. Per my last email, I am a wolf in space, and I still receive and reply to emails. Per my last email, I guess this is how I know I'm still alive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. I love these and I love the way you read them. I just think they're so funny and humorous and well put together. And the last one with the wolf in space is so imaginative and I love stuff like that. So I have to ask, were you inspired to write these because you were working in a corporate environment that was driving you crazy? What is the basis behind this?
Yeah, definitely. I have worked in corporate environments and been frustrated by many of the norms of communication, especially since my parents did not have corporate jobs. There was a, a huge learning curve when I finished college, just becoming accustomed to corporate communications. And then during the pandemic, I think many people have struggled with trying to keep up with communications of all kinds and also distinguish between the types of communication and create boundaries for themselves, whether they're replying to their boss or a client or family emails, whatever. There are just so many nuances. And now that so many of us are home and working from home, all or most of the time, it is hard to set these boundaries. They just keep blurring. So there's a lot of frustration there.
Yeah, a lot of blurred lines with the work-life balance. That was hard
Yeah.
to begin with, and now it's even worse. So did anybody have any questions or comments for Christine? And if not, well, thank you so much for Christine for sharing those. I really enjoyed them.
Thank you.
So now we are going to move on to our next poet, who also happens to be our youngest poet. So is Bianca Turcios here? She is 9 years old, and it's
pronounced Bianca Turcios.
Bianca Turcios. Okay, thank you for telling me. Yeah, I tried to get the pronunciation right, but thank you. You have a beautiful poem to read to us, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. And so when you're ready, take it away.
Love 21. Love, we all have it, but most times we don't show it or return it. We all need love. Without it, who will give warm hugs and kisses when we need them the most? Take 2020, all the crazy things that go with it. 2020 is a time we all need to put our hearts and strength together. Together we can make 2021 a better time than 2020 if we show love for each other.
Thank you, Bianca, that was absolutely beautiful. So what inspired you to write this down as a poem?
2020 inspired me because a lot of crazy things were happening in my family, so I just decided to write this poem.
Oh, it's beautiful. And how long did it take you to write?
It took me 3 days.
3 days. Oh, it's really well done. It's beautiful. The first time I read it, I was so happy that you wanted to share it with everybody. I didn't start writing poetry till I was much older than you, so I really appreciate how talented you are at such a young age, and I hope that you continue writing many more poems and will be featured in many more Westbury Arts poetry events. So does anybody here have any questions or comments for Bianca? No? Okay, well, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to have you, and you are the youngest poet here, which is a very big badge of honor, okay? So thank you so much. So now we have, and I hope I'm gonna say this right, Gaetania Zanzonico. Did I say that correctly? This is who we're looking for. We're trying to highlight her. So are you here?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Megan. Nice to see you. Hello to everyone.
Did I say your name right?
Gaetana. Gaetana. Yes. Okay.
I try to pronounce them right, but if I don't say them right, just correct me.
It's okay. Hello, everyone. My poem is called Observation. I stand here looking at you. I'm human, yet not like everyone else. It wasn't my time when I died. I question why I survived. Observation is my gift. Most times seeing the other side. Those who didn't cross over stay entwined in our world, yours and mine. They need a place to be, a voice, an answer to move on. What about us? How are we to move forward? What answers are we looking for? We rely on hope for days to cope. We rely on prayer for our troubles and scares. Most of all, we rely on each other, bringing us together, our nation for one another. A child shouts out, "Look, Mommy, she's an angel." Yet my lips are sealed as my feather falls to the ground, leaving a trace. Beyond the naked eye, what you don't see, I do. Am I blessed? I guess. Those you love have left, and you cry out as a calmness fills your soul throughout. They're at peace, and for a moment you know They're guided by an angel as you lay your head on your pillow.
Thank you so much. That is a beautiful poem. This is the only one that you're reading tonight, but I love your work. I think this is beautiful. And the second that I started reading this, I immediately thought of like a ghostly presence, but then that turned into more of like an angelic guardian spirit. So what exactly inspired this poem?
This is an experience I went through, which was a true experience in my senior year of high school. I was in a horrific fire, which I actually wrote a book about, actually on Kindle. It's called To Hell and Back. And it just wasn't my time. And I have this gift that I actually do see spirits that are lingering around. So it's very interesting. I have no fear. They've been good spirits, transparent in color, and I try and help them move on.
That really came across right in the poem, that you wrote this based on your experience and the experience that you had with the spirits. And I hope that they're listening and enjoyed this poem as much as I did, because I thought it was fantastic. And I can't wait. I hope that in the future, because we hope to have more of these events, I hope that you will consider submitting some other poems, or maybe even coming to the actual Westbury Arts Center one day and reading this one live. So did anybody have
very interesting?
Yeah. Did anybody have any questions or comments about this poem? Okay. Well, you were technically the last poet tonight, but what I'm going to do now is, because I listened to everybody else's poems, I figured what I will do now is that I will read one of my poems. I have a book of poetry called Fanciful Words Whimsically Rendered. This was actually published by a wonderful small press called Acute by Design. They are out of Connecticut, and I published a children's book with them and this book of poetry. They are a traditional publisher. They're not self-publishing. I recommend for anybody to check them out because they have some wonderful books. And mine was that they always did children's books, and my book was actually the first book of poetry that they ever published for like general audiences. So I'll pick one of my poems from here. This is very tiny. There's only 35 poems in here. It's a tiny little book. But I'm going to read one of them. And this one is called Considering the Conversations of Trees, which goes well with my background, actually. If trees could talk, the willow would weep, lamenting its long train of leaves that were getting quite dirty and dusty upon the muddy ground. The pine would gloat about being so regaled at Christmas time and having the honor of keeping its green all year long. The fruit trees, apples, oranges, pears, and so on, they are all quite alike, would bicker rudely, for they are known for their freshness. The wise old oak would watch the blossoms and then warn the flirtatious magnolia that its beauty was fleeting. The palm tree, an exotic offering, would be good friends with the baboa, since they both have a fondness for dry heat, and often pondered the fate of their long-lost comrade, the elusive eucalyptus. Meanwhile, the maple and the birch, which would be practically inseparable, wondered how the elm and the olive tree could be so splendidly beautiful, akin to the tree of life itself. So thank you. So that's one from my book, Fanciful Words Whimsically Rendered, that was just published last year. And I definitely suggest checking out the publisher because they do some great work. So I want to thank how to get my books. I will send you, they're on Amazon, and I can actually put the link in the description right now. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight. And I really wanted to thank, in particular, I wanted to thank Westbury Arts for helping me set this up, because this is my very first time ever hosting a big Zoom event like this. I actually just got on the board of directors of Westbury Arts not that long ago, and it's been a wonderful experience. And everybody has worked really, really hard to make this event possible tonight. And I really appreciate it. And I hope that everybody enjoyed this. I really was amazed by the quality of the poetry that we got. I love listening to everybody's poems and seeing everybody's reactions. And I hope that some of you will consider joining Westbury Arts, and I certainly hope some of you will consider submitting more poems again to another poetry reading, because we do want to make this sort of a series. We may have to do 1 or 2 more on Zoom, but eventually we would love to do some of these live in the Westbury Arts building, which will be opening very shortly. And I would also like to give a major thanks to Julie Lyon, who was also serving as my co-host, the main host of this. This was my event, but I feel like she is really the person that deserves to have the spotlight on her, because she is the president of Westbury Arts, and she set all this up, and she's recording it, and we're going to have this on YouTube because of her. So thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Megan. You did a great job. And thank you to all of our poets tonight. You guys are amazing. I laughed, I cried. It was such a wonderful evening. And so just let me, one reminder, if you want to become a member of Westbury Arts, it's westburyarts.org/join. And I do believe that I just put that in the chat. And if you'd like, we are a nonprofit, a 501c3. And so if you would like to donate to Westbury Arts to help support programs just like this, please visit our website, westburyarts.org/donate, and you can give a little something back. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. It's been a wonderful evening.
Thank you. We so appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great evening, and check the Westbury Arts YouTube page, because this will definitely be uploaded there within like a week or so, week and a half or so, I suppose. Okay. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Night.
Good night, all.
Good night.